The morning sun painted the purple trees of New Busan in golden light as 7-year-old Hanna skipped through the forest behind her family farm. Her small hands clutched a wicker basket, half filled with the blueberries her mother needed for breakfast. The colony world was still young, only 20 years since humans first landed here, and Hanna had grown up knowing these alien woods as her backyard playground. She hummed a simple tune while walking deeper into the forest than usual. The trees here grew taller and their purple leaves seemed to shimmer with an inner light. Hanna had always been curious about everything around her, much to her parents' worry. Today felt different, though. Something was calling to her, pulling her forward through the unfamiliar part of the woods. The sound of running water caught her attention. Following the gentle noise, she found a small stream with crystal-clear water flowing over smooth stones. But what made her gasp was not the pretty stream. There, nestled between two large rocks near the water edge, sat something that made her eyes grow wide with wonder. It was an egg, but unlike any egg she had ever seen. The egg was about the size of her head and seemed to be made of living crystal. Soft light pulsed inside it like a gentle heartbeat. Colors swirled within the transparent shell, shifting from deep blue to bright silver to warm gold. The egg felt warm when she touched it, and she could swear she heard something like a soft humming coming from inside. Hanna sat down beside the strange egg, her berry basket forgotten. She had learned about many alien creatures in school, but nothing looked like this. The colony database showed pictures of local animals, but this egg belonged to none of them. Still, she felt no fear. Instead, a warm feeling spread through her chest, like finding a lost kitten that needed help. "Hello there," she whispered to the egg, feeling a bit silly but somehow knowing it was the right thing to do. "Are you okay in there?" The light inside the egg pulsed brighter as if responding to her voice. Hanna giggled softly and reached out to touch the smooth surface again. The moment her small hand made contact, the egg began to crack. Hanna jumped back, her heart beating fast with excitement rather than fear. Golden light spilled out through the growing cracks. The egg shook gently and she heard soft chirping sounds from within. She leaned forward, watching in amazement as pieces of the crystal shell fell away. What emerged took her breath away completely. The creature was small, about the size of a house cat, but looked like something from the fairy tale books her grandmother used to read to her back on Earth. It had the basic shape of a dragon, with 4 legs, wings, and a long tail. But instead of the scary monsters from stories, this little being was the most beautiful thing Hanna had ever seen. Its scales shimmered with all the colors of the rainbow, changing hues as it moved in the sunlight. It had large eyes, not just 2 like humans, but 4 eyes arranged in pairs on either side of its head. Each eye was a different color, deep purple, bright green, warm amber, and silver like starlight. Small wings, too tiny for flight, fluttered on its back as it shook crystal dust from its body. The dragon hatchling looked around with confusion, its multiple eyes blinking as they adjusted to the world outside its egg. When its gaze fell on Hanna, all 4 eyes focused on her at once. For a moment, they simply stared at each other. Then Hanna broke into the biggest smile of her young life. "Oh my goodness, you are so cute," she exclaimed, clapping her hands together in delight. The little dragon tilted its head much like a curious puppy might. It took a hesitant step toward her, then another. Hanna held very still, not wanting to frighten the beautiful creature. The dragon approached slowly until it was close enough to sniff her outstretched hand with its tiny nose. "I think you just hatched," Hanna said in the gentle voice she used with baby animals. "Are you hungry? Are you cold?" The dragon made a soft trilling sound, almost like a bird song but more musical. To Hanna's amazement, she felt like she understood what it meant. The little creature was indeed hungry, and perhaps a bit scared in this new world. "I wish I had something for you to eat," she said, looking at her basket of berries. "I don't know what dragons like, though." As if understanding her words, the dragon looked at the berries with interest. It took another step closer and gently sniffed the blue fruits. Then, very carefully, it picked up one berry with its small claws and ate it. The dragon's eyes brightened and it made a happy humming sound. Hanna laughed with joy. "You do like them. Here, have some more." She poured a few berries onto the ground and the dragon ate them eagerly. As it ate, Hanna noticed something wonderful happening. The dragon seemed to be getting stronger and more energetic with each berry. Its scales became more vivid and its movements more confident. "You need a name," Hanna decided, watching the creature enjoy its meal. She thought for a moment, looking at how the dragon's presence seemed to make the forest around them more alive and vibrant. The flowers near the stream appeared brighter, and she could swear the grass looked greener where the dragon sat. I'll call you Bomb, she announced. That means spring in my grandmother's language. You make everything look fresh and new, just like spring does. The dragon, now called Bomb, looked up at her and made that musical trilling sound again. This time, Hanna was certain she felt something in her mind, like a warm touch that said thank you. She reached out slowly and gently petted Bomb's head. The little dragon leaned into her touch, closing all four eyes in contentment. They sat together by the stream for a long time, Hanna sharing her berries and Bomb accepting her gentle touches. The sun climbed higher in the sky, and Hanna realized she had been gone much longer than her mother would like. But looking at Bomb, she knew her life had just changed in the most wonderful way possible. She had found a friend unlike any other, and somehow, deep in her young heart, she knew this was just the beginning of something amazing. Hanna walked home through the purple forest with Bomb perched carefully on her shoulder. The little dragon had grown noticeably during their time by the stream, now about the size of a small rabbit. His rainbow scales caught the afternoon light as he looked around with curious eyes, taking in this new world with wonder. Mom is going to be so surprised, Hanna whispered to her new friend. I hope she likes you as much as I do. Bomb made a soft chirping sound and gently nuzzled against her neck. The touch sent a warm feeling through Hanna's mind like a hug from the inside. She giggled and reached up to pet his smooth scales. When they reached the farmhouse, Hanna could see her mother Mi-young working in the vegetable garden. Her father Taeho was fixing a fence post nearby. Both parents looked up as she approached, and their faces went from relief to confusion to alarm in a matter of seconds. Hanna, what is that creature on your shoulder? Mi-young asked, dropping her gardening tools and stepping forward with concern. This is Bomb, Hanna announced proudly. I found him hatching from a crystal egg by the stream. Isn't he beautiful? Taeho moved closer, his farmer's instincts making him cautious of unknown animals. Hanna, step back slowly. We don't know if it's dangerous. Dangerous? Hanna looked shocked at the idea. Bomb isn't dangerous. He's sweet and gentle, look. She held up her hand and Bomb climbed onto her palm, settling down like a content cat. The dragon's four eyes blinked slowly at her parents, and he made a soft trilling sound that somehow conveyed peaceful intentions. Mi-young approached carefully, her mother's heart warring between caution and curiosity. I've never seen anything like it in the colony database. Where did you say you found it? By the crystal stream in the deep forest. His egg was glowing with pretty colors, and when he hatched, he was so small and confused. I couldn't just leave him there alone. Taeho scratched his head, looking at the unusual creature. We should contact Administrator Park. He needs to know about this. Please don't take him away, Hanna pleaded, holding Bomb protectively. He's not hurting anyone. He just ate some berries and took a nap on my shoulder. As if understanding the conversation, Bomb hopped down from Hanna's hand and walked over to a wilting tomato plant in the garden. The dragon placed his small front paws on the plant's stem. Immediately, the plant straightened up, its leaves turning a healthy green and small flowers blooming along its branches. The family stared in amazement. Mi-young knelt down beside the now thriving plant, touching its leaves in wonder. How did he do that? I don't know, Hanna said, equally surprised. But Bomb makes everything better. Even the grass looked greener where he sat in the forest. Over the next few days, Hanna and Bomb became inseparable. The dragon grew quickly, soon reaching the size of a medium dog, but his gentle nature never changed. He followed Hanna everywhere, playing games that seemed to stretch both their minds in new ways. Bomb learned human words with amazing speed, though he couldn't speak them aloud. Instead, Hanna began to understand his musical sounds, and more strangely, sometimes felt like she could hear his thoughts directly in her mind. When she was happy, Bomb's scales would shimmer brighter. When she felt sad or frustrated, he would nuzzle against her until she felt better. The dragon's effect on the farm was remarkable. Plants grew faster and healthier wherever he walked. Sick animals recovered quickly after Bomb spent time near them. The family's old cow, who had been limping for weeks, was soon walking normally after the dragon rested beside her one afternoon. Taeho and Mi-young watched these developments with growing amazement and concern. They loved seeing their daughter so happy, but they knew such an unusual creature would eventually draw attention from the colony authorities. That attention came on the fourth day when Administrator Park Jin-woo arrived for his monthly inspection of the outer farms. Park was a serious man in his 40s who took his job of keeping the colony safe very seriously. He noticed immediately that something was different about the family farm. "Your crops look unusually healthy," he commented, walking through the garden with Teho. "What new techniques are you using?" Before Teho could answer, Han-Na came running around the corner of the house with Bomb bounding beside her. The dragon had grown again and now stood as tall as Han-Na's waist. His wings had developed enough for short gliding jumps, and his scales had settled into a beautiful pattern of deep blue and silver. Park stopped dead in his tracks, his mouth falling open. "What in the name of Earth is that?" "That's Bomb," Han-Na said cheerfully, completely unaware of the adult tension. "He's my best friend. Bomb, come meet Mr. Park." The dragon approached cautiously, sensing the man's fear and uncertainty, but when Han-Na placed her hand on Bomb's neck, he relaxed and sat politely, looking up at the administrator with intelligent eyes. Park reached slowly for his communicator, but Teho caught his arm. "Please, before you call anyone, let us explain." Over the next hour, the family told Park everything that had happened. They showed him the improved crops, the healed animals, and most importantly, the obvious bond between Han-Na and Bomb. The dragon never left the girl's side, and his behavior was clearly protective rather than aggressive. "I've run every scan I can think of," Park finally admitted, looking at his handheld scanner's readings. "This creature doesn't match anything in our databases, not just local wildlife, but nothing in the entire galactic species catalog." "What does that mean?" Mi-young asked. Park looked troubled. "It means we've found something completely new. Something that might be very important or very dangerous. I should report this immediately to the colonial authority." "But Bomb isn't dangerous," Han-Na protested. "He helps things grow and makes everyone feel better. Can't you see how good he is?" Park looked down at the young girl and her unusual companion. Despite his training and caution, he had to admit that the creature showed no signs of aggression. If anything, its presence seemed to make everything around it healthier and more peaceful. "Give me some time," he finally said. "Let me do some research first. But Han-Na, you must promise to keep Bomb close to home. Don't let anyone else see him yet." Han-Na nodded eagerly, hugging Bomb around his neck. The dragon purred like a giant cat, a sound that somehow made everyone in the garden feel calmer and happier. Park left that evening with more questions than answers, but also with a strange feeling that this discovery might change everything they thought they knew about their new world. Dr. Kim Sora stared at her computer screen in complete disbelief. The xenobiologist had been working for 3 days straight, since Administrator Park brought her the tissue samples from Han-Na's dragon companion. What she found in the genetic data made her question everything she thought she knew about galactic history. "This can't be right," she whispered to herself, running the analysis for the 10th time. The results remained the same. The creature's DNA contained markers that matched ancient records from the deepest archives of galactic civilization. Sora was a small woman in her 30s with sharp eyes and an even sharper mind. She had studied alien life forms on dozens of worlds, but nothing had prepared her for this discovery. Her hands shook slightly as she accessed the most restricted databases available to colonial scientists. The information she found made her gasp out loud. According to the ancient records, the genetic patterns belonged to a species called the Vorthak, but that was impossible. The Vorthak had been extinct for 50,000 years. Sora had studied the legends of the Vorthak in university. Every spacefaring species knew the stories. Long ago, before humans ever looked up at the stars, the Vorthak had ruled vast portions of the galaxy. They were described as beings of incredible power, masters of both advanced technology and what could only be called magic. The Vorthak had built cities that floated in space without any visible means of support. They had created gardens on dead worlds and turned desert planets into paradises. Their ships could cross the galaxy in days rather than years. Most remarkably, they seemed able to manipulate matter itself with their minds, reshaping reality according to their will. Then, suddenly and mysteriously, they vanished. Their great cities became empty ruins. Their fantastic technology stopped working. The entire species simply disappeared, leaving behind only monuments and legends. For thousands of years, archaeologists from dozens of species had studied Vorthak ruins. The technology was far beyond anything modern civilization could understand. Even simple Vorthak tools were considered priceless artifacts. Entire wars had been fought over control of Vorthak archaeological sites. And now, if Sora's tests were correct, A living member of this legendary species was playing games with a 7-year-old human girl. She grabbed her communicator and called Administrator Park. "Jinwoo, you need to get here right now. And bring the family. All of them." "What did you find?" Park asked. "Something that's going to change everything." An hour later, Park arrived at the research station with Taeho, Mi-young, and Han-na. Bomb had grown again and now stood as tall as Han-na's shoulders. His wings had developed enough for short flights around the farmyard, and his scales had taken on an even more brilliant shine. Han-na held Bomb's front paw like she might hold a friend's hand. The dragon looked around the laboratory with curious eyes, clearly understanding that this was an important place even if he didn't know why. "Dr. Kim," Han-na said politely, "this is Bomb. He wanted to come meet you." Sora studied the magnificent creature before her. Even without her scientific knowledge, she could sense that Bomb was something special. He moved with a grace that seemed to bend the very air around him. When he looked at her, she felt like he was seeing directly into her soul with those 4 beautiful eyes. "Hello, Bomb," she said softly. The dragon tilted his head and made a musical sound that somehow conveyed a greeting in return. Sora turned to the adults. "What I'm about to tell you must not leave this room until we decide how to handle it. The creature Han-na found is not just unknown. It's supposed to be impossible." She activated her computer display showing the genetic analysis results. "Based on every test I can run, Bomb belongs to a species called the Vorthak. They were the most advanced civilization the galaxy has ever known." "Were?" Taeho asked. "They disappeared 50,000 years ago. Every expert in the galaxy believes they went extinct. Their ruins are scattered across hundreds of worlds, but no living Vorthak has been seen in recorded history." Park leaned forward. "Are you saying this dragon is 50,000 years old?" "No," Sora replied. "The genetic markers suggest he's very young, probably hatched recently just as Han-na described. But his DNA carries the pure bloodline of the ancient Vorthak. Somehow, somewhere, members of this species survived." Mi-young looked at Bomb, who was now lying contentedly beside Han-na's chair. "But he's so gentle and sweet. The legends make the Vorthak sound powerful and terrifying." "That's just it," Sora said. "The more I research, the more I realize our understanding of the Vorthak might be completely wrong. Yes, they had incredible power, but the oldest records suggest they were peaceful. They used their abilities to help other species, to heal damaged worlds, to bring life to dead places." She pulled up holographic images of ancient Vorthak ruins. "Look at these structures. They're not fortresses or weapons. They're gardens, healing centers, places of learning. The Vorthak weren't conquerors. They were gardeners on a galactic scale." Han-na looked up from petting Bomb. "That makes sense. Bomb helps our garden grow better, and he made the sick cow feel better. Maybe that's what his people do," Sora nodded. "The child may understand better than any of us. If Bomb is truly a Vorthak, then his instincts would be to nurture and protect life, not destroy it." Park paced nervously. "But if word of this gets out, every major power in the galaxy will want to study him, or control him. Vorthak technology is beyond anything we understand. Which is why we need to be very careful," Sora said. "But there's something else. The genetic analysis shows that Bomb isn't just any Vorthak. His bloodline markers suggest he comes from what the ancient records call the royal lines. He may be descended from the most powerful Vorthak families." Bomb looked up at the mention of his name, his 4 eyes blinking slowly. He made a soft trilling sound and nuzzled against Han-na's hand. The girl giggled and scratched behind his small horns. "He doesn't seem royal," Han-na said. "He just seems like my friend." Sora watched the interaction with growing wonder. Maybe that's exactly what makes him royal. The ancient texts suggest that true Vorthak power came not from conquest, but from connection, from love and understanding. She turned to the parents. "I recommend we keep this discovery secret for now. Let me continue my research. But I think what we're seeing here is more than just a surviving member of an ancient species. I think we're witnessing the beginning of something that could change the entire galaxy." Outside the laboratory window, New Busan's twin moons were rising over the purple forest. In the distance, ancient ruins that had puzzled archaeologists for decades began to glow with a soft, warm light. None of the humans noticed, but Bomb's eyes tracked toward the distant glow, and his scales shimmered in response. The dragon was beginning to remember things he had never learned, and the galaxy would never be the same. Despite Dr. Sora's careful research and Administrator Park's attempts to keep the discovery quiet, Word of the living vortex spread through the galaxy like wildfire. A junior technician in the Colonial Authority had accessed Sora's files and sold the information to a news network. Within hours, every major civilization in the galaxy knew about Bomb. Hannah first learned something was wrong when she woke up to find 3 strange ships hovering over her family's farm. The ships were unlike anything she had ever seen, with designs that looked both ancient and threatening. Bomb, now grown to the size of a pony, stood protectively beside her bed with all 4 eyes focused on the sky. "Mom! Dad!" Hannah called out, running to the main room of their house. Tejo was already at the window, his face pale with worry. "Stay back from the windows, Hannah. We don't know what they want." But Hannah could see exactly what they wanted. The ships had symbols painted on their hulls that she recognized from her school lessons. One ship bore the twisted serpent mark of the Skarn Empire. Another displayed the geometric patterns of the Zephyri Collective. The third ship was unmarked but clearly military. Mi-young wrapped her arms around her daughter protectively. "What do they want with us?" Their question was answered when Administrator Park arrived in his ground vehicle, driving faster than Hannah had ever seen him move. Behind him came Dr. Sora and several other people Hannah didn't recognize. They all looked very serious and worried. "We need to talk," Park said as soon as he entered the house. "The galactic news networks are calling Bomb the find of the century. Every major power wants him." One of the strangers stepped forward. He was a tall man with military bearing and stern eyes. "I am Captain Lee Junho of the Colonial Defense Force. These ships belong to alien ambassadors who have traveled here to claim your dragon." "Claim him?" Hannah stepped protectively in front of Bomb. "He's not a thing to be claimed. He's my friend." Bomb made a low rumbling sound, not quite a growl, but clearly indicating he was not happy about the situation. His scales shifted to darker colors, and the air around him seemed to shimmer with barely controlled energy. Dr. Sora knelt down to Hannah's eye level. "The aliens believe that because Bomb is a Vorthak, he's too dangerous to remain with humans. They want to take him away for study and safekeeping." "That's stupid," Hannah said firmly. "Bomb has never hurt anyone. He helps things grow and makes everyone feel better." As if responding to her words, Bomb walked over to a dying houseplant in the corner. He placed one paw gently on its pot, and immediately the plant straightened up, its leaves turning bright green and small flowers blooming along its stems. The room filled with a sweet fragrance that made everyone feel calmer. Captain Lee watched this display with amazement. "How does he do that?" "We're not sure," Sora admitted. "But it's not just plants. Yesterday he healed a broken wing on a bird that Hannah found, and the effects seemed to be getting stronger." Outside, loudspeakers crackled to life from one of the hovering ships. A harsh reptilian voice echoed across the farm. "Humans of New Busan, I am Ambassador Yeltar of the Skarn Empire. You possess a dangerous Vorthak artifact that rightfully belongs to the galactic community. Surrender the creature immediately and no harm will come to your settlement." Hannah looked confused. "Artifact? Bomb isn't an artifact. He's alive." Another voice joined the first, this one buzzing like an angry insect. "The Zephyri Collective claims ancient salvage rights to all Vorthak relics. This creature must be turned over to us for proper containment." Bomb's eyes flashed with anger at being called a relic. The dragon had grown much more intelligent over the past weeks, and Hannah could feel through their mental connection that he understood exactly what the aliens were saying about him. "They're talking about you like you're just a thing," Hannah said angrily, hugging Bomb around his neck. "That's not fair." Captain Lee looked out at the alien ships with concern. "My forces are on their way, but we're badly outnumbered. Each of those ships could level our entire settlement if they wanted to." That's when something strange began to happen. Bomb stepped away from Hannah and walked to the center of the room. He sat down and closed all 4 eyes, his breathing becoming slow and deep. The shimmer around him grew brighter and everyone in the room felt a strange tingling sensation. "What's he doing?" Tejo asked. Dr. Sora checked her instruments frantically. "The energy readings are off the charts. He's doing something I've never seen before." Through the windows they could see lights beginning to appear across the landscape. Ancient structures buried beneath new Busan soil were starting to glow with the same soft radiance that surrounded Bomb, ruins that archaeologists had studied for years but never understood. Were coming to life. Hannah felt Bomb's thoughts more clearly than ever before. He was remembering things. accessing knowledge that had been sleeping in his mind. Images flashed through their shared connection. Great cities floating among the stars, gardens that covered entire continents. Beings of incredible wisdom and power working to heal wounded worlds. The Vorthak ruins, Sora whispered in amazement. He's activating them. Across the planet, every piece of ancient Vorthak technology began to wake up. Defense systems that had been dormant for 50,000 years powered on. Energy shields that no modern science could understand flickered to life around major settlements. The alien ships above suddenly found themselves caught in gentle but unbreakable energy fields. Their weapon systems shut down harmlessly, and their ships were slowly but firmly pushed back from the planet's surface. Ambassador Yeltar's voice crackled over the radio again, but now it sounded worried rather than threatening. What is happening? Our systems are not responding. Baum opened his eyes and looked directly at Hanna. In that moment, she understood everything. The Vorthak hadn't disappeared. They had been waiting for the right time, the right person, the right connection to awaken their legacy. And somehow, a 7-year-old girl's simple love for a strange dragon had triggered the return of the most powerful civilization the galaxy had ever known. Baum, Hanna whispered. What's going to happen now? The dragon made his musical trilling sound, but this time everyone in the room could somehow understand his meaning. He was telling them that the real adventure was just beginning. Outside, the ancient ruins of New Busan glowed brighter against the darkening sky, and across the galaxy, sleeping Vorthak installations began to stir after their long slumber. 3 days after the first alien ships arrived at New Busan, the sky filled with more vessels than anyone on the colony world had ever seen. What started as 3 ships had grown into a massive fleet of over 200 warships from across the galaxy. Hanna pressed her face against her bedroom window, watching the alien vessels circle overhead like angry metal birds. Baum lay beside her, now grown to the size of a small horse. His scales had deepened to rich purples and golds, and his 4 eyes tracked the movements of every ship with careful attention. There are so many of them, Hanna whispered. Captain Lee Junho stood in the family's living room, studying reports from his scouts. The Colonial Defense Force had only 12 small ships, hardly enough to challenge even one of the alien warships, let alone the entire fleet. The Skarn Empire sent 50 battleships, he reported grimly. The Zephyri Collective brought 80 vessels of their own. There are ships here from the Altarian Federation, the Nexus Coalition, and at least 6 other major powers. They all want the same thing. Dr. Sora looked up from her research tablet. It's not just Baum they want anymore. The awakening of the Vorthak ruins has them terrified. Ancient defense systems are coming online across the planet. Some of the technology is so advanced that our scanners can't even figure out what it does. Administrator Park paced nervously by the window. The alien ambassadors are demanding a meeting. They want to discuss the surrender of what they're calling the Vorthak inheritance. The what now? Taeho asked. They believe that Baum's awakening of the ancient technology means humans have somehow inherited Vorthak power, Sora explained. They're calling it the most dangerous development in galactic history. Hanna turned away from the window, her young face serious beyond her years. They're scared of us now, aren't they? They're scared of what Baum might be able to do, Captain Lee corrected gently. The Vorthak were the most powerful species ever known. If their technology is truly awakening again, it could change the balance of power in the entire galaxy. As if responding to the conversation, Baum lifted his great head and looked directly at Hanna. Through their mental connection, she felt his thoughts more clearly than ever before. Images flashed through her mind. Vast fleets of ships, weapons that could destroy entire star systems, and beings of incredible power locked in terrible wars. But she also saw something else. She saw the Vorthak as they truly were. Not conquerors or destroyers, but gardeners and healers who had grown tired of the endless violence in the galaxy. They had chosen to step back to hide their power until the galaxy was ready for something better. Baum says they're wrong, Hanna announced to the room. The aliens, I mean. They think the Vorthak were like them, always fighting and trying to control things. But that's not what they were like at all. Dr. Sora leaned forward with interest. What does he tell you about his people? Hanna closed her eyes, focusing on the warm presence in her mind that was Baum's consciousness. He says the Vorthak got sad watching all the different species fight each other. They had the power to stop the fighting, but they knew that would just make everyone scared of them instead. So they decided to wait. Wait for what? Captain Lee asked. For someone who could love without being afraid. Someone who could see good things instead of just scary things. Through the window, they could see the alien fleet arranging itself into attack formation. The largest ship, a massive Skarn dreadnought, moved to the front of the formation. Its weapons systems began charging with ominous energy. Captain Lee's radio crackled to life. Colonial Defense Force, this is General Thexmore of the Skarn Imperial Fleet. You have 1 hour to surrender the Vorthak creature and all associated technology. If you refuse, we will take them by force. Another voice joined the transmission, the buzzing tone of the Zephyri Collective. Hive Queen Zeke speaks for the Collective. The ancient weapons are too dangerous to remain in primitive hands. Submit now or face the consequences. Hanna felt anger rising in her chest, not just her own but Bomb's as well. The dragon's scales began to glow with inner light and the air around him started to shimmer with barely contained energy. They keep calling him a thing, she said angrily, and they keep saying we're too stupid to understand. That's not fair. Bomb stood up, his massive form now filling most of the room. His 4 eyes blazed with ancient wisdom and growing power. He walked to the window and looked out at the threatening fleet above. All across New Busan, the awakened Vorthak ruins pulsed brighter in response to his emotion. Energy barriers that had been invisible became visible as shimmering domes of light over every human settlement. Weapon systems older than most galactic civilizations hummed to life in underground bunkers. Dr. Sora's instruments went wild with readings she couldn't begin to interpret. The energy output is beyond anything I've seen. It's like the entire planet is becoming one giant Vorthak machine. But Bomb doesn't want to hurt anyone, Hanna protested. He's just upset because they won't listen. Captain Lee received another urgent report from his scouts. Sir, we're detecting massive power buildups in the alien fleet. They're preparing to attack. How long do we have? Park asked. Minutes, maybe less. Hanna ran to Bomb and threw her arms around his neck. Please don't let them hurt my family, she whispered into his warm scales. I don't care what happens to me, but please keep my mom and dad safe. Bomb made a sound unlike any he had made before, a deep harmonious note that seemed to resonate through the ground itself. The dragon's eyes met Hanna's and she felt a wave of love and protection wash over her mind. But she also felt something else, the awakening of power that had slept for 50,000 years. Power that was now stirring in response to a child's innocent love and trust. Above them, the alien fleet completed its attack formation, weapons charged to full power, ready to rain destruction on the human colony world. General Thexmore and Hive Queen. Zik prepared to give the order that would begin what they believed would be a quick and decisive victory. They had no idea that they were about to face the full awakened might of the ancient Vorthak, channeled through the pure heart of a little girl who had shown kindness to a lonely dragon hatchling. The storm was about to break, and the galaxy would never be the same. General Thexmore's voice echoed across the planet as the first wave of energy blasts streaked down from the alien fleet. All human settlements will surrender immediately. Resistance is futile. But something strange happened to the deadly weapons. As the bright beams of destruction fell toward New Busan, they simply vanished into sparkling light that drifted away like golden snow. The energy shields protecting the human cities didn't just block the attacks, they transformed them into something beautiful and harmless. Hanna watched from her window in amazement. Bomb, are you doing that? The great dragon stood beside her, his scales now blazing with colors that seemed to come from another world entirely. His 4 eyes reflected depths of knowledge and power that stretched back through 50,000 years of history. But when he looked at Hanna, his expression was still the same gentle, loving look she had seen when he first hatched. Through their mental connection, Hanna felt Bomb's consciousness expanding. She could sense other minds touching his thoughts, ancient and wise voices that had been sleeping in the deep places of the galaxy. The Vorthak weren't extinct. They had been waiting, watching, hoping for this moment. Dr. Sora's instruments showed readings that broke every scale she had. The power output is impossible. It's like the planet itself has become a living Vorthak entity. Captain Lee received frantic reports from across the colony. Sir, every Vorthak ruin on the planet is fully active now. We're detecting energy signatures that our technology can't even measure. Above them, the alien fleet launched their second attack, this time with weapons powerful enough to crack planets. Massive beams of concentrated energy lanced downward, enough firepower to turn New Busan into ash and glass. Hanna felt fear rising in her chest, not for herself but for her parents and all the people in the colony. She pressed closer to Bomb, her small hand touching his warm scales. "Please protect everyone," she whispered. "I know you're good. I know you won't let the bad things happen." That simple trust, that complete faith from an 8-year-old girl, triggered something that the galaxy had not seen for millennia. Bomb's consciousness suddenly expanded beyond anything he had experienced before. Through Hanna's pure love and trust, he accessed not just his own genetic memories but the collective knowledge of every Vorthak who had ever lived. Their wisdom, their power, their understanding of the universe flowed through him like a great river of light. But more than that, he understood why they had chosen to disappear all those years ago. The Vorthak had grown weary of being feared, tired of having their every action seen as a threat by lesser civilizations. They had withdrawn from the galaxy not in defeat, but in hope that someday, someone would see them not as conquerors to be feared, but as friends to be loved. That someone was Han-Na. The planet-killing weapons struck the energy barriers around New Busan and simply stopped existing. Not destroyed, not deflected, but transformed at the molecular level into streams of pure life energy that spread across the world. Wherever the converted energy touched, plants grew greener, animals became healthier, and the very air seemed to sparkle with vitality. In the alien fleet above, alarm klaxons wailed as ship systems began shutting down, not damaged or destroyed, but gently and irresistibly turned off by an intelligence far beyond their understanding. General Thexmore found himself unable to give orders as his ship's communication systems transformed into something that only carried messages of peace and friendship. Hive Queen Zik watched in confusion as her vessel's weapons became instruments that could only create and heal, never harm. Across the galaxy, every piece of Vorthak technology that had ever been found began to activate. Ancient ruins on 100 worlds glowed with renewed life. Artifacts that had been stored in museums and laboratories started working again, but only in ways that brought joy and wonder, never fear or destruction. Hanna felt all of this happening through her connection with Bomb. The dragon had become a conduit for the collective will of his entire species, and that will was focused on one simple goal: protecting the innocent child who had shown them that love was still possible in the galaxy. "They're not fighting anymore," Hanna observed, looking up at the alien ships. Why did they stop? Through Bomb's expanded consciousness, she could sense the confusion and growing wonder in the alien minds above. They had come expecting to face a terrible weapon, a dangerous threat that needed to be contained or destroyed. Instead, they found something that challenged their most basic assumptions about power and control. Dr. Sora stared at her readings in amazement. The ships aren't being attacked or damaged. They're being changed. Their weapons are being converted into tools for exploration and creation. Their armor is being transformed into systems for environmental restoration. Captain Lee received a transmission unlike any he had ever heard. It came not from his radio but seemed to speak directly into his mind with a voice of infinite gentleness and ancient wisdom. "People of the stars," the voice said, and somehow every being in the fleet heard it in their own language. "We are the Vorthak, and we greet you in peace. For too long, you have known us only through legends of power and fear, but we are not your enemies. We are gardeners, healers, those who tend the life of the galaxy." The voice continued, filled with sadness for the past and hope for the future. "Long ago, we withdrew from your civilizations because our presence brought only fear and conflict. We waited in the spaces between stars, hoping that one day we would find those who could look upon difference with wonder rather than terror." Hanna felt tears running down her cheeks, though she wasn't sure if they were tears of joy or sadness. Through Bomb, she could feel the loneliness that the Vorthak had carried for 50,000 years, and also their overwhelming happiness at finally being seen with love instead of fear. Today, a child of humanity showed us that such beings exist. She looked upon one of our young and saw not a weapon to be feared, but a friend to be cherished. Through her innocent love, she has awakened what we thought was lost forever, the hope that the galaxy can know peace. The alien fleets hung motionless in space, their crews struggling to understand what they were experiencing. Weapons of unimaginable power were being offered to them freely, but only as tools of creation and healing. The most advanced technology in the galaxy was theirs to study and learn from, but only if they chose to use it for good. And at the center of it all was a little human girl who had simply seen a lonely dragon hatchling and decided to love it. 5 years had passed since the day Han-Na found Bomb by the crystal stream. Now 13 years old, she stood in the great hall of the newly built Galactic Peace Center on New Busan, watching delegates from dozens of worlds work together on projects that would have been impossible before. Bomb had grown magnificent over the years. He was now the size of a small building, his rainbow scales reflecting light in patterns that seemed to shift between dimensions. His 4 eyes held depths of ancient wisdom, but they still lit up with joy whenever he saw Han-Na approach. The dragon lay contentedly in the center of the hall, surrounded by alien children from many different species. A young Skarn was showing him drawings of her home world. 3 Zephyri younglings buzzed excitedly as they demonstrated a new game they had invented. Even the usually serious Alterian delegates smiled as they watched their offspring play fearlessly with the great dragon. "It's hard to believe they were trying to destroy us 5 years ago," Administrator Park said, joining Han-Na at the observation deck. He looked older now, but happier, his face bearing the peaceful expression of someone who had witnessed miracles become everyday reality. Han-Na nodded, remembering that terrifying day when the sky had filled with warships. Bomb says his people knew this would happen eventually. They just had to wait for the right moment. The transformation hadn't happened overnight. After the Vorthak consciousness had awakened through Bomb, revealing the true peaceful nature of their civilization, it had taken months for the galaxy to accept what they had learned. Many species had struggled with the revelation that the most powerful beings in the galaxy were not conquerors, but gardeners. The idea that true strength came from creating life rather than destroying it challenged thousands of years of thinking about power and control. But the evidence had been impossible to ignore. Across the galaxy, awakened Vorthak technology was healing damaged worlds, restoring dead ecosystems, and solving problems that had plagued civilizations for centuries. Weapons of war were transformed into tools of creation. Ships designed for battle became vessels for exploration and discovery. Dr. Sora approached with a data tablet in her hands, her face glowing with excitement. Now the director of the Vorthak Research Institute, she had dedicated her life to understanding the incredible technology that had been freely shared with all galactic civilizations. "The latest reports are incredible," she told Han-Na. "The Zephyri have used Vorthak biotechnology to restore their damaged homeworlds. The Skarn have transformed their entire military into an exploration and rescue force. Even the most aggressive species are finding that Vorthak tools simply won't work for harmful purposes." Han-Na smiled as she watched. Bomb gently helped a small alien child climb onto his back for a ride around the hall. "He told me that's how Vorthak technology works. It only responds to good intentions. If you try to use it to hurt someone, it just stops working." "Brilliant design," Sora mused. "A technology that becomes more powerful the more peaceful its user becomes." No wonder the Vorthak were never truly conquered. Their own tools would have turned against any aggressor. Captain Lee, now promoted to general of the newly formed Galactic Cooperation Fleet, joined their conversation. His uniform bore symbols from dozens of different worlds, representing the unprecedented alliance that had formed since the Vorthak awakening. "The council meeting results are in," he announced with satisfaction. "Unanimous vote to establish the Vorthak Heritage Accords. Every major civilization has agreed to share Vorthak technology freely and use it only for peaceful purposes." Han-Na felt a warm glow of pride, not for herself, but for how the galaxy had chosen to grow and change. Through her connection with Bomb, she could sense the joy of the Vorthak consciousness as they watched the younger species finally learning to work together. "There's something else," General Lee continued. "The Council has voted to name you as the first official ambassador to the Vorthak consciousness, Han-Na. They want you to help guide the integration of their knowledge with our civilizations." Han-Na looked surprised. "But I'm just 13. I don't know anything about being an ambassador." Bomb made his musical trilling sound, and Han-Na felt his gentle thoughts in her mind. The dragon reminded her that she had already been serving as an ambassador for 5 years, bridging the gap between the ancient Vorthak wisdom and the younger species of the galaxy. Her innocent love and trust had made her the perfect translator between 2 very different ways of understanding the universe. Dr. Sora knelt down to Han-Na's eye level, just as she had all those years ago when she first explained what Bomb really was. "The Vorthak consciousness chose to awaken through you for a reason. You saw beauty where others saw strangeness. You offered friendship where others offered fear. Those qualities make you exactly the right person for this job. As if summoned by the conversation, Han-Na's parents appeared at the edge of the hall. Taeho and Mi-young had adapted well to their daughter's unique role in galactic history, though they sometimes still seemed amazed that their little girl had become one of the most important people in the known universe. "Are you ready to go home for dinner?" Mi-young asked with a smile. Even after all the changes, some things remained wonderfully normal. Han-Na nodded and walked over to Bomb. The great dragon lowered his magnificent head so she could scratch behind his horns, just as she had when he was small enough to sit on her shoulder. "Thank you," she whispered to her oldest friend, "for trusting me, for showing everyone that being different doesn't have to be scary." Bomb's response filled her mind with warmth and love. He reminded her that she had been the one to teach him about trust, back when he was a confused hatchling who didn't understand his place in the universe. Their friendship had grown into something that changed the galaxy, but at its heart, it remained the simple bond between a girl and her beloved companion. As they prepared to leave the Peace Center, Hana looked out at the bustling hall where species that had been enemies for centuries now worked side by side. Children from dozens of different worlds played together without fear or prejudice. Scientists shared knowledge freely. Artists collaborated on works of beauty that celebrated their differences, and leaders planned expeditions to explore and heal, rather than conquer all. Of this had started because a 7-year-old girl had found a strange egg in the forest and decided that whatever hatched from it would be her friend. Walking home through the purple trees of New Busan with Bomb at her side, Hana reflected on how simple acts of kindness could ripple outward to change everything. The galaxy had learned that the greatest power wasn't the ability to destroy, but the courage to love without conditions. And somewhere in the spaces between stars, the Vorthak consciousness smiled with ancient wisdom, finally at peace knowing that the galaxy's future was in hands that understood the true meaning of strength.